Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Monday nights 9 p.m. is Abhijit time, and as always, Abhijit is here with us to answer your questions. Let's welcome Abhijit Iyer-Mitra. Abhijit, Namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
வணக்கம் எல்லாரும் சகோதர சகோதரிகளுக்கு என்னோட காலை வணக்கம்.
Kalaya Malaya?
மாலை sorry.
Malay Vanakkam. Okay, all right. Very good. He's saying evening greetings to one and all. Let's jump right to the questions. We have a smaller, shorter session today. We're going to try and see how quickly we can go through the questions. The overflow, as always, will be addressed by Abhijit at an opportune time during the week. So let's go. Hsedna TV wants to know, how does a defense budget get implemented in general in a country?
Okay, so the process is, I can tell you what happens in France and America, but those are the ones I've studied really closely. In America, there's a huge process corruption, but in France, it's a backwards calculation, which I think is very important for a middle economy. So they basically know what they're going to get as a percentage of GDP. They plan for the next 10 to 12 to 15 years, depending on what the program is. So, for example, a nuclear submarine program will be planned out over 30 years. Okay. If it's a tank procurement, it will be planned out over 12 to 15 years. So the greater the complexity, the longer the planning, the longer the budget setting out. So second part of the question, do politicians in India pocket certain amount of the budget to themselves? Not of the budget, no. The pocketing happens in other ways and other places, but it isn't to do with, it's not the budget goes into their pockets direct, no. How should India ideally allocate money to defense? The French way. In fact, employ the French way completely. Give a commitment that you're going to, peg it to 3% of the GDP. And that way, there will be a constant knowledge of what you're going to get. There is to be no out-of-pocket emergency expenses and things. Everything needs to be provisioned beforehand. If an emergency expense arises, you need to be sacking people. And if the budget money isn't used at the end of the year, it needs to be put into the war kitty, into the war reserve.
Next question, please. Mandar Karnik wants to know, what are the implications of a border state like Punjab being ruled by the Aam Aadmi Party?
Insurgency all over again. Because remember, they don't care. They really don't care if everything burns as long as they come to power. Okay, so as it is, they're dangerously, you're seeing the beginnings of an insurgency. I don't know how many of you lived through the 80s. Okay, but even now, having lived through the early 80s and early 90s, I can tell you it was these small sparks combined with this kind of irresponsible politics that led to insurgency in both Punjab and Kashmir. So yeah, you're looking at, look, the Khalistan movement is going to raise its head again, irrespective of AAP. AAP is just going to accelerate the process.
Abhishek wants to know, sir, why are Venezuela and Cuba still under brutal sanctions? Do you think that sanctions should be removed?
Well, look, sanctions depend on the country. Tomorrow, if I want to sanction Pakistan, I can do it. The issue is, will it impact Pakistan? No. America can. And basically, we know that both the Cuban and Venezuelan government are extremely brutal and nasty. And so America has those sanctions in place. Is it a form of regime change? Yes. But does America have the right to put sanctions? Yes. So no, I don't think sanctions should be removed or not removed. It's a sovereign decision to make.
Next question, please, from Sethu Ram. Is it good for a growing country like Bharat, where people spend time on digital content consumption and cyber coolies? Is it good for a growing time, or how can you stop it? What are the implications on our economy in long term? Any course correction?
Well, look, I mean, there's two kinds of implications. One is if you subscribe to all the right stuff, you probably, like PGurus, for example. So like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment below for the algorithm. So if you subscribe to nice channels like PGuru, the chances are, your career opportunities and things, your horizons will broaden, you will gain more knowledge, you will become a smarter investor, etc., etc., etc. If you watch weirdo channels, the chances are you're just whiling your time away. Unfortunately, it turns out that most of the watching is of digital entertainment, which is a complete waste of everybody's time. Okay, because entertainment is great when you lead an extremely busy life and then watch 2 3 hours to go offline or something like that. But in this case, it's people whiling away their entire time. So it's never been a productive thing, and mind you, even the content isn't very good. So therein lies the problem. Any course correction tips? Yes, industrialize. Make people so busy with their jobs that they don't have time for this crap.
Next question, please. Raj Kshitiji wants to know, do you ever think merger of Russia, resource rich, and India, huge market, would be in mutual interest, mitigating each other's strategic risks with alternate government system and troop rotation?
So, India isn't that big of a market. The high disposable income market is equivalent to Australia. It's not even equivalent to a small country like Germany. Okay, so no, you don't really. It's a very poor country and resources which the poor country simply cannot use unless it industrializes. Okay, so no, I don't think that is a optimal situation. Next.
Next question, please. Mandar Karnik again. Considering the challenges faced by the LCA project, are you confident that projects like AMCA and TEDBF will be successful in India, or will they face challenges time wise?
Boss boss I've seen the initial uh, the plans and this and that. They've learned nothing. You know why? Because there's never been any accountability. Has anyone been punished for the 40-year delay in the LCA? No. So how do you think anybody's going to, well, not 40-year, but say 20-year delay in this thing, when most of its other, planes that were jointly developed are now in the third or fourth upgrade cycles? So when you are that far behind and nobody's been punished, tell me how are you going to learn lessons to course correct? So no, they are going to go down the same path as the LCA.
Abhishek wants to know, sir, what is the sociological reason that Punjab has so many Babas and Deras and their blind following? Why even rich people get attracted to the Babas?
No, it's the same in almost all states. Huh? There's no particularly great uh, 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 increase in Punjab. I think the thing about Punjab is you'll find Deras and Babas across the rest of India tend to have a localized but interstate following. Whereas Deras and Babas in Punjab are very Sikh specific, and therefore they are mostly constrained to Punjab geographically. So it's very much to do with what original religion those Babas and Deras are taking off of.
Can you put up that graphic, please? Viewers, this is a book that I wrote 4 years ago, and it details how the NSE shenanigans were done by Chitra Ramakrishna, Ravi Narayan, and many babus from finance ministry. They are all roaming free, and all this, the main champion of all these was the evil genius Chidambaram. And 4 years later, now you're seeing something emerge. Just think about how much effective it would have been if the government had jumped on it in 2018 itself, because they've all wiped out the evidences. I mean, you can say a lot of things are happening, but at the end, if you need to have evidence to convict people, and for that you need to act timely. So I have my doubts on what's going to happen in this NSE co-location scam, but it was the dumbest thing to do for the people. They were brazen, they were totally full of hubris. They thought they can get away with bloody murder. That's what has happened in this case. But still, these people roam free, give statements, and they act as if they have done nothing wrong. Anyway, next question, please.
Can I just say I love Chidambaram? And even if he's an evil genius, remember, even an evil genius is a genius.
Yeah, I'm giving him a left-handed compliment. That's all.
Yeah, I like Chidambaram.
Aditya wants to know. Yeah, go ahead.
Between peer-reviewed articles and actual books, do you think peer-reviewed articles hold up well during a casual research? Not necessarily, boss. See, a book has a lot more ideas, because it gets into greater depth, not necessarily, but it combines a lot of ideas, whereas a peer-reviewed article focuses in on just one idea, or one causality or one correlation. So I don't make a difference between the two. My book reading happens parallel. I force myself to read peer review articles to understand micro detail. I read books because I want the macro big picture. Okay, so it's like looking at something at a 5x zoom and then a 10x zoom. Okay, that's it. Otherwise there's no real this thing. uh, do they hold up well during casual research? Yeah, mostly they do. Mostly they actually hold up well, unless the goalposts, not the goalposts, the kya kehte hain, the assumptions are flawed. And mostly when the assumptions themselves are flawed, I kind of lose interest in the article even before I've finished reading it, because I know if the assumption is flawed, the end result is going to be flawed. So then after that, I just do a speed read. Anyway, I speed read, but here I do a 5x speed read. And I'm yet to come across an article that I've read where the assumptions were flawed and the result was good. But I still read it because there'll always be one or two really smart points somewhere which you can pick up, even in a wrong article. So, yeah. And how do you approach a book when you're hard pressed on time? Look, boss, I speed read everything. I can finish off a really fat book, like, say, like my favorite author, Ian Morris's Why the West Rules for Now. I finished it off in about 3 days. Okay, so I read things very fast. Uh, we were trained to do it as kids. My parents kind of forced me to do it, both my mom and my dad. So you learn it.
Kapil Gund wants to know your thoughts on MMRCA2, Navy F-18, Rafale, best option.
Boss, I've just given up. I've just given up, Kapil. I mean, boss, this is like MMRCA, then MMRCA2. This is just complete nonsense. This is major league higher level defense mismanagement. And I've just given up, because anything right now that is not aimed at a single engine fighter, which you're going to buy at least 400, 500 off, is a complete waste of everybody's time. Okay. And if you don't want to buy Rafale or F-16, perfectly fine. Place the order for 500 Tejas right now. Okay. Stop wasting people's time.
Kanda Batata wants to know, anti-nuclear folks who say nuclear is non-renewable stress that uranium-238 is rare and that's why it is not considered renewable. What are your thoughts?
Say nuclear, look, the non-renewability argument of nuclear comes from the fact that it is renewable, but it's non-renewable. Like if you look at the 3-stage program, it's meant to utilize the fuel from one into the second stage and then into the third stage. And now we've given up on, I think we've abandoned the entire program going by the budgetary figures. But theoretically, it's been condensed to a 2-stage, because we realized the fast breeder reactor probably wasn't going to happen. And now it turns out probably even the thorium isn't going to happen. But look, you can always change uranium. Okay, you can change uranium to things. You can change the isotope. That is the beauty of nuclear fuel. So it's the non-renewability. It's still renewable for about 100 to 120 years or so, precisely because of the change factor. If you keep in touch with all the technology, I mean, keep in pace with all the technology. The big issue that they have is meltdowns and the storage, the pollution that comes from the storage of nuclear material. And those are basic nonsense arguments. Okay, they're complete nonsense arguments. It all depends on how careful you are with your reactors and how you store them. That's it. So it's taking a pollution argument. Remember, when you say non-renewable, it can be renewable but polluting, and would still be considered unclean, and therefore they would merge it with non-renewable. I think that's what's happening in the case of nuclear. But nuclear is eminently renewable, including U-238, which isn't all that rare. I've never found, I've never read this argument that it's rare.
So what you're saying, if I understand you correctly, is that uranium can be reprocessed right around the same place where the plant is and then repurposed again?
No. I mean, look, there's a process to doing it. The isotopes can be changed. Okay, so the
Okay,
isotopes you can work and you can mutate it. That's the whole beauty of nuclear, right? So you can always you can get different isotopes in different ways.
wonderful. Next question, Ajay Kumar wants to know, why haven't we seen any friendly shootout in this war?
You haven't seen any friendly shootout reported. There's a very high likelihood that there have been significant incidences of friendly shootouts. It's just not been reported.
Mr. Lee wants to know, why does the West oppose potential civilizational states such as China, India, Russia, and continues to attempt in spread of liberal democracy?
Uh okay. See, I'm not even sure I agree with this opposing civilizational states. Okay, it's always been an interest driven thing. It has nothing to do with the civilization itself. It has to do with interests and how they oppose Western interests. And liberal democracy is basically just a hogwash way of wrapping things around. Because remember, today, when you say liberal democracy, what do you mean? It's an NGO which can be corrupted and brought about to. It's look, a liberal democracy, quote unquote, is the new dictatorship. In the olden days, you had a dictator who could be controlled through certain leverage. Today, you have governments that can be controlled through NGOs one way or another. So that is why it's not just dogma; it's also the smart way of doing things.
A shout out to our viewers that unanswered questions of episode 49 are available on our second channel, and we'll put you the link right now, right after this question, so that you know where to go look for your unanswered questions of the previous episode. We've been doing this for a while now. The unanswered questions of each episode are recorded by Abhijit. Thank you, Abhijit. And they are put up on our channel, second channel. Do not forget to subscribe to the second channel, because then it is automatic. Every time there is a new episode of unanswered questions, you get notified right away. Next question from Mr. Lee again. In 2011, the US started to attempt to slow down China's economic rise as they sensed that the monopolarity was nearing an end. When will the US attempt to do the same to India, and how?
They never attempted to slow down China's economic rise. I don't know where you've seen this, but I have not seen this. Starting in '89, when Tiananmen Square happened itself, they imposed certain knowledge and technology transfer curbs because they knew they had won the Cold War. So there was an attempt at preventing knowledge from getting there, but I have not seen this specifically since 2011. 1989 was the turning point for me. And attempt to do the same to India, well, look, it depends. India is just not high enough. I mean, I know we think we're the center of the world's attention, but honestly, to tell you the truth, nobody actually gives a shit about India. I'm sorry about it, but that's the reality. I've been burning up the lines this entire last 2 weeks to Moscow, to DC, to Berlin, to Paris. Most of them don't give a damn. They're like, support us or get out of the way. It's like that. We're just one more. I mean, okay, we're marginally more important than, say, Tuvalu or the Federated States of Micronesia. But nobody actually values our ability to bring anything substantial to the table.
AK wants to know, can you give a brief account of the steps GOI has taken to bring back the students before the war breaks out? Do they do enough from their end? Why should they have to
Yeah,
do
they've
anything?
done.
Yeah.
They
But
shouldn't.
why?
But look,
You have to
but
ask this question.
look, what did they do for all the laborers who had to get back during uh, lockdown? Why do these people deserve more? Okay, that's my real gripe. Why do these people deserve more than what those laborers deserved? इनके लिए प्लेन उनके लिए बस भी नहीं था. ठीक है ना? So first understand, we're doing all these people a huge bloody favor. Okay, we have no goddamn responsibility to do it. Okay, now what steps are they taking? Well, it's very simple. We are trying as best as possible. Even today, apparently, in the conversation with Putin, humanitarian corridors were requested. Thankfully, they had already been announced prior to the phone call, because it was something Bennett and Israeli Prime Minister Bennett and French President Macron had already requested. And as I had predicted, Ukraine has said no to all of those corridors, because their strategy is human shields. And the moment the humans start leaving, you don't have any shields left. Okay. So but anyway, this is one of the things we've been trying to get, is humanitarian corridors, and well, temporary humanitarian corridors. And we have been trying to set up cross border between the Russian border, because see, a lot of the fighting is happening in the north, which is where we want that transport to be facilitated, which is simply not happening out there, right? And mostly it's because the Russians say that it's too dangerous. You want to go west, that's fine, but if you want to come north, they just don't want the risk of the Ukrainians staging a false flag using Indian or any other kind of students out there. So the Russians are actually being the responsible ones out here. So India has been trying. Mixed results. Some have been truly remarkable achievements, some have not. This is natural. And then and look, we can't provide them with transport inside Ukraine. All we can do is keep urging the Ukrainians, please, inko priority do. So, for example, they weren't allowed to board the trains to Lviv. You saw the videos where they were not allowed to take trains from Kharkiv to Lvov, Kharkov to Lvov. I am not going to be using the Ukrainian pronunciation. I'm going to be using the Russian pronunciation. Kharkov to Lvov. And they did not allow them till, the PM called and had some speaking to do to them, or the ministers had to do speaking to them. Then what's happening is the governments out there. Do you know my friend who I do the other podcast with, Kushal Mehra, because his niece was stuck in Kharkov, because she had to be evacuated the next day from after crossing the border. The government of India paid for a hotel for her. You're seeing all the horror stories about dormitories. Look, they're doing what they can. I mean, you've been given something, be grateful for it. And mind you, 99% of them are. It's the 1% of the rotten apples who think they deserve bloody business class, first class, British Airways first class return tickets from via New York back home. I'm sorry, you're not going to get it. And look, some of them are genuinely upset because they don't know when their education is going to resume. That I completely agree with. I mean, you're upset, fine, bache ho, you're allowed to behave a certain way. And then from those four capitals, which is four countries, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, and Poland, they've been arranging flights for you free of cost. Your accommodation once you cross the border is arranged for you free of cost. Tumhara khana pina is arranged for you free of cost. And they asked you to clean the toilets in order to get ahead of the list. Really? I clean my own toilets, damn it. To this day, I don't let the person who cleans my house clean my toilets. I clean my own toilets. मैं अपना toilet clean करता हूँ. ये लोग अपना toilet clean नहीं कर सकते हैं. क्या तमाशा लगा के रखा है क्या इधर?
I think those kids who are expressing such opinions, they need to get an attitude adjustment. I mean, it was your will and your wish to go to a particular city or in a country.
That particular section of society, there is something fundamentally rotten about them. It is India thrives because of the poor. It is the poor who join the army and go and die for you. It is the poor who do not complain when you didn't do anything for them during lockdown. And you still will not do anything for them. You will take them for granted. Why? Because they are not vocal. It is all these schmucks that you will do things for who come back from here. We should do what China did to their students.
One discussion, one guy said that China had evacuated all their students much before the conflict started. Any truth to that?
No, okay. They did not.
And they can't even pass themselves off as Indians. So
look, Chinese students who go abroad are very rich. Never forget that. It isn't a middle class demographic that's coming out, it's a very rich demographic coming out. I remember when I went to Australia to study, the kind of, like, all the Chinese students, and the mainland Chinese students who'd rock up there, the middle class Chinese students who were like us were the Taiwanese, or, the Indonesian or Malaysian or Singaporean Chinese. All the Chinese who came, they would buy, okay, they couldn't buy Mercedes or BMW coupes, some of them did, but mostly they were buying Toyota coupes. It was always coupes or SUVs. And I'm like, इधर मैं हूं, मेरे पास हाथ में पैसा नहीं है एक सेकंड हैंड गाड़ी खरीदने की, and you are buying coupe shupe.
Abhijit, I have to tell you this. My daughter studied at a private college in San Diego. I won't name it, but people can put two and two together. This private college used to attract a lot of students from the Middle East. They'll come, their dad or mom will give them a Ferrari. Now, the problem is these people will double park and expect that the two adjacent parking spaces will not be filled up. This university was at a bluff where parking was at a premium, and they would expect to do that. So there are many people who are spoiled, rich children, and very, very funny when you see these kinds of things. They actually loudly complain that we are not getting double parking.
Yeah, see, I've decided I'm going to start complaining every time I don't get caviar in business class now.
Okay, Diya D Cruz. If I'm not mistaken, Ukraine doesn't qualify to be a NATO member. Ukraine and West would have spent some time in statements and talk. So what's the necessity of the invasion? Isn't it a wrong move by Putin?
Look, I believe it's a look, I'm not falling for the madman thesis, but I've not been able to explain it rationally. I've been trying to see where I went wrong for the last 12 days. I'm trying to look for a logical explanation, and I'm not finding it. Okay, I've just not found it. So I'm sorry. I can't answer a question that I haven't found the answer to.
There's a Tamil
And I
saying
had
for
said,
this.
I fundamentally did not believe he would invade because it is so irrational. But I don't subscribe to madman thesis because there's always rationality in a player. And I don't know the answer yet. So you're going to have to go back with that ancient Vedic, because, at the end of the Vedas, the question is, I have searched, but I have not found. It's like that. I have searched, but I have not found. This is my own Vedic. This is the Abhijit Bhasma Veda, the fifth great Veda.
All right, next question. I was going to say something, but it's okay. By the way, somebody has been asking me, how come I have not released the Hindu name of Mr. M.K. Stalin? Once upon a time, Dr. Swami told me, I think maybe it was also in a speech, you can look it up on YouTube, that his Hindu name is Ayyappa. All right. Next question, please. Aditya wants to know, what is the end game for Putin with so many sanctions consuming Russia? Will it be another North Korea?
Yes, it will. It's going that way, unfortunately. Okay, it's a commodities. Unlike North Korea, it's a huge commodities superpower. There is no mineral on Earth probably that it is not one of the top 5 producers of. So, but you're going to look, I assume over the next year, you will see its per capita income is about $10,000. I think you'll see about a $2,000 drop. And then you will see a further, well, it's about $12,000, but you'll see a $2,000 drop. And then let's see how it goes, boss. I'm just very upset with what's happened. But anyway, I'm not able to think rationally.
Kush278 wants to know, hi Abhijit, how do you rate the Russian forces campaign so far in Ukraine? Is it Western propaganda in saying Putin planned a quick victory, according to me, which will be 2 to 3 months?
Yes and no, because we don't really know what Putin thought. The only publicly available information that we had was that, the notice of air movement, the ban saying, hey, we're testing missiles, or in this case, we're invading, is for till May 14th. So if you go by the documentation, he clearly planned a 2-3 month op. But the very fact that he only committed 10% of his forces to the initial assault, would suggest that he probably planned a quick victory. But what goes against it again is the fact that the 100% of forces that he has on the border, and I'm not talking about all of Russia, just what he had committed on the border to Ukraine, are more than adequate for the job. Uh, uh, my satellite access went off about 2-3 days back. They're now blanking out images of Ukraine. Now, why? Why is it that no satellite company, the Korean satellite company, the American satellite companies, the European satellite companies, want us to see what's happening in Ukraine? Why? Uh, I don't know. But from everything we saw before that, is that Ukrainian conventional forces were being crushed. Crushed, and how? Okay, literally fields and fields upon fields of devastation. So, no, boss, wait till May 14th and we'll have this conversation again.
All right. Next question
How
from
would you
AK.
rate economy during Congress and now during BJP? Well, there were different issues. Okay. BJP, despite its victory, is doing literally nothing or very little. They keep squandering majorities. And Congress was just corruption, 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 corruption. See, there's a fine line between corruption. I'm a great fan of corruption because it's how you lubricate a rotten, overly red taped bureaucratic system like India. The problem is when it becomes too much corruption, that lubrication turns into a leak. Okay, so it's like how water filled up in the next room and now it's baad ban gaya hai tumhare kamre mein. That was the difference. The BJP, look, I'm the kind of structural adjustments we should be seeing. Okay, even the incremental adjustments that Vajpayee did, wo bhi nahi hai. There's a very there are some plans that are good, undeniably. The synthesis isn't all that great. And sometimes when you don't synthesize reforms properly, you can have negative synergy. Okay. What factors or decisions by the BJP delaying 5 trillion? अरे $5 trillion GDP मेरे जिंदगी में नहीं होने वाला है. ठीक है ना? तुम्हारे जिंदगी में शायद भी नहीं होने वाला है. 5 trillion what, by the way? When you say $5 trillion economy, is it 5 trillion paisa economy?
See, they'll just go and say GDP calculations, and then the GDP formula will be changed to make it look like it's 5 trillion. It's okay, yaar, chodo. It doesn't matter. I mean, these are all, optics. Ye mayajal karte hain, chodo. AK, do you think Biden has deliberately created the current situation to shift focus away from China? Is he compromised?
I don't think deliberately, but I think a lot of miscalculations are happening in that administration, which were perceived as deliberate. Okay, in all previous administrations, there was a very strong central ability to synthesize all the departments because we had very powerful presidents. Trump, his own system was trying to get him. So it started breaking down then. What you're seeing now is a complete breakdown of synthesis because you either have a demented or an Alzheimer's president. So I don't know what he suffers from, but it's clearly very serious synaptic decline. So what you're seeing is nobody is taking the president's office seriously and different arms are working differently. They're all pathologically Russophobic. So nobody probably synthesized the hostility to which they were going to ramp up Russia relations. So I don't think deliberately, there's maybe some element of deliberation, but overall, possibly not. It's very hard to tell, but possibly not.
Channel the G.I. Joe show. How can we make a moral, not legal, claim to Kashmir when we accept the existence of Pakistan? After all, it's unfinished business of the partition of India.
No, it's not unfinished business as far as we're concerned. The moral claim right now with what has happened with Ukraine is even higher. We should simply say that what Pakistan did to Kashmir is exactly what Russia did to Ukraine, which is use an ethno-nationalist argument to barge in. That is your moral claim. Okay, that is your moral claim.
What's this? What this video? WTV. Abhijit Bhaiya, when we are progressing in the same time, China and others are also progressing. This way, we need some radical changes and other measures to surpass them. What do you think that
Yes.
could be?
Well, boss, what you needed to focus on was education. What you needed to focus on is manufacturing. Now you've missed that ball, and I don't know what we're going to focus on anymore. Because see, everybody is going gaga over 3D and additive manufacturing. Remember, the easiest things like toothbrushes and bulbs and tube lights, which is what China became rich on the back of, those will be the first things to become additive manufacturing. Okay, so even your learning curve is being taken away from you. So unless you're willing to get into manufacturing even now and pay for the education, or at least count on the job training as CSR, you are not going to go anywhere. And they're just not doing it. Just mouthing off, oh, $5 trillion economy, you're not going to be a $5 trillion economy. You need to invest in education. You need to invest in seeing to it that job training, on-job training is... sorry, I have to take this phone.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. We'll take you out of the... You can go ahead and take the call. Viewers, small request. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And do not forget to click on the bell button. I know I sound like I'm begging here. I'm not begging. I'm requesting you nicely. One of the things that we have been doing in our channel is present all points of view. Even in this Russia-Ukraine conflict, we've been presenting all points of view. Some of those things, personally, somebody may agree or may not agree, but at least it helps you to understand something, looking at it from different directions. Next question, please. Chai wants to know, is it possible to make LOC an international border to make peace with Pakistan?
Is it possible to make an LOC an international border with Pakistan? Well, that is our preferred solution. The problem is that nobody in the Pakistani side is willing to accept that. Okay. Nobody on the Chinese side is willing to accept that. China may have been willing to do that, but maybe not even that, because remember, with Burma, they accepted a line very close to, not exactly, but very close to the McMahon line. Okay. But look, I think the boat on that again has sailed. So there is no, and with Pakistan, that even that little hope was never there. Okay. So biting off more than we can chew, yes. Unfortunately, I think as the power differential between China and India keeps going, yeah.
Next question from Karan Pandita. When do you think same-sex marriage will be legalized in India as well as marijuana? Who do you think, which party will do that?
I think marijuana has already been legalized. I think consumables are legalized, if I'm not mistaken. I know 2 or 3 product manufacturers that are planning on bringing their products into the market. Same-sex marriage,
marijuana?
Bhang, maybe. Well, bhang is totally legal, by the way. Bhang is legal. You can. There's government bhang shops. But same-sex marriage, well, I filed a petition in the Supreme Court for it. So let's see what happens with that. Well, the Delhi High Court, not the Supreme Court. And which party do you think will do that? I don't think it will be done by a party. I think it will be done by judicial fiat, which will force the government to do things.
Ravi
Had
Dattani
Justn Trudeau used the invasion of Ukraine to crack down on the truckers? No. No. He had already cracked down and broken that protest up before Ukraine started.
In fact, America tried the same thing and it didn't quite fly. So just wanted to put that out there. It is.
But I want you to all recognize this. All the COVID restrictions across states have been falling rapidly. They've been using Ukraine to peddle back the bad science and the mask mandates and things like that. And nobody's been noticing. Have you noticed Fauci? This is the longest that Fauci has not been on TV. He's not been on TV for almost 10 days now. So they're basically peddling back Fauci. They're peddling back the bad science, and they're using this as a backdoor way so that nobody will remember or talk about any COVID now, and they will slowly start removing the restrictions.
Smitha Alva wants to know, what are the employment opportunities for a graduate, postgraduate in international affairs?
Well, it depends on how good you are, right? If you start with a internship when you're doing your graduate, or if you're a PG, then, start writing for a think tank and things like that. It depends on how good you are. Like they say, the more precocious you are, the higher you grow.
A request to everyone to just put one question in one line, one request. Don't put 3 questions in one request. It's difficult for Abhijit. It is difficult for me. Plus, you all type it on your cell phones, full of mistakes. Please help us out. Thank you. Next question. Anurag Sinha wants to know, 1 or 2 books Abhi will recommend everyone. NY Field. What is NY Field?
I don't know.
Next question. Neoconservatives. Okay, you read it.
Global. Okay, neocons, globalists, Germany, Russia, China, Ukraine itself. What is the exact interlinking in this game? I don't know. I've been trying to figure this out because, like I said, I'm not willing to buy that America is suicidal or Europe is suicidal. I'm not willing to buy that Russia is suicidal. But I don't know what the hell is happening, dude. I literally don't know. I pride myself on a 40,000 foot view. I'm not able to decipher this at all. I'm sorry, I'm not. There's just today I heard some amazing financial stuff, that financial indicators from about almost 6 months back, which should have given us warning that Russia was preparing for war. But then I've told you this before, I don't look at finance. I am to finance what Rahul Gandhi is to politics. So I'm trying to figure that out. Maybe the answer lies in the financial markets. But like I said, if the answer lies in the financial markets, your chances of me giving you an accurate estimate of it are just about as high as the chances of Rahul Gandhi becoming Prime Minister.
This is the last question. After this, all the unanswered questions will be pooled, and then Abhijit will record them and we'll put it on channel 2. Can you put the channel 2 link, please, after this question so people know where to look for in case they're starting from a web URL? Gaurav Katareya wants to know, has there been an increase in naval activity, I think, in 2021? How can we solve this problem?
I don't know. I don't know about nasal activity, dude. I really don't. But I can show you my nostrils if you want.
Please. It is getting too gross. Thank you.
But he wanted to know about nasal activity. I guess he's saying naval activity. No. Curiously not. There's been no... well, look, there's been no shift in naval activity that it's picked up, that we've been able to pick up, if you were asking about naval activity. Yeah.
All right. Let's have the link for the second channel now, and then we will wind up today's program. I apologize. Something else has to be done right now. Go ahead, please.
Put up the link for channel 2, please. Yeah.
Put up the link. There you go.
Like, share, subscribe, and just comment. Put really nice things for the algorithm. If you want to abuse me, you can do that as well. But just leave that comment saying Abhijit tu ye hai, wo hai, and all of that, just for the algorithm. It apparently helps the algorithm.
And thank you, Abhijit. From the bottom of my heart, the guy is traveling and he still scheduled his travel so that he would make this thing on time. Thank you once again, Abhijit. Namaskar, and we'll see you again very soon.
May the blessings of our Lord in Christ be on all our viewers.